I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking about supplements. This can be a very confusing area where most people that I speak to who are on the fertility journey are taking a boatload of supplements, a long list, and they may have been taking them for years. And sometimes we don't even know why we're even taking some of these supplements anymore. So I wanted to talk about the basic supplements that we recommend to all of our clients in our couples coaching program. We have basic supplements and there's 6 of them. So I wanted to talk about those basic supplements, why they're important, and the common mistakes we see around supplements. So excited for you to listen to this episode. I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 4 spots available per month to work with us. I would like to invite you and your partner to a Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call. And this call is for you if you meet at least one of these criteria. You've been trying to get pregnant for at least 2 years. You've been through at least one failed IUI or IVF. This calls for action takers. If you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. If you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. That's FabFertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. There's a lot of information about which supplements are right for fertility. And like most couples I speak with, you are probably taking a lot of supplements. But are these supplements optimizing or harming your fertility? That's why we recommend professional grade supplements without harmful dyes, fillers, or top allergens so that you can prepare your body in the best way for pregnancy. And as you may know, we take a functional approach to fertility. And while supplements are included in your customized protocols, which are based on testing, they are only part of the equation because there's no pill you can take that will out-supplement the basics, such as poor diet, dysregulated sleep, either moving too much or not enough, and not dealing with chronic stress. So we do recommend basic supplements for both men and women. And these are essential starters that you need to have right now to optimize your preconception health. And I'm excited to offer you a special discount at our Fab Fertile store. You'll receive 15% discount on our professional grade supplements. So simply go to Fab Fertile Store. That's F-A-B fertilestore.com to access the basic supplements so that you can prepare your body for pregnancy success without wasting time and money on supplements that may not be right for you. Go to Fab Fertile Store, that's fabfertilestore.com, and save 15% on your order. Hey there, thanks so much for listening to the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If you are enjoying learning about the functional approach to fertility, consider going to iTunes and rating and reviewing the podcast. This is how it helps the show reach more people that are struggling with infertility, knowing that there's another approach that really can get to the bottom of why it's not working in the first place. So all you need to do is, if you're on the app or the desktop, just go in and consider leaving a 5-star rating and leave a review. And there is step-by-step instructions in the show notes showing you exactly how to do that. So if you can just take a few minutes, just take the few minutes right now. You can pause this recording, come back, leave the review. It would really mean the world to me and help others that are on the fertility journey as well. Take care. I didn't need to go to donor eggs. Obviously, I don't regret it. I have beautiful children. I could have done things differently, restored. I was still cycling back in my 20s. I could have looked at my health, the environmental toxins, the stress I was under.
Many women are being told their eggs are too old. That's often merely an assumption that's not based on actual evidence. The reason being that there is no direct test of egg quality. You can't test egg quality.
It's the man who's got a food sensitivity or he has a zinc deficiency.
Like, there can be a root cause to these symptoms that are, quote unquote, period problems, that the doctor will pass you a pill without any question of why.
And some part of you knows that if you can reframe your journey from not want to struggle, or if it is struggle, learn how to embrace the struggle. Learn how to embrace it.
Most conditions in the child occur during the 9 months of development. It's the genetic switches are turned on or turned off, and they're pre-programmed. So you are in such a powerful, amazing position to do amazing things for your kids.
Why is IVF the first step? Because we believe it should be the last step. Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey there, I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile and your host. I believe the functional approach is the first step for anyone struggling with infertility, and my aim is to help you get pregnant naturally. Today, I'm welcoming Justine Altman back to the podcast, and we're digging into the basic supplements you need to know about if you're trying to conceive. And definitely check out episode number 6 for a functional medicine 101 talk, plus a look at some of the tools we use to help couples conceive. Justine is part of my team here at Fab Fertile, and she's an integral part of our couples coaching program, which uses functional lab testing, diet, and lifestyle changes to dramatically improve conception. So if you are struggling with infertility, your body is desperately trying to tell you something. And focusing on your health will either help you get pregnant naturally, or if you do need to go to the fertility clinic, it will improve your chances of success. Justine is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. She was diagnosed with PCOS and struggled with infertility. She had her first baby with fertility treatments, but after taking a functional approach, she was able to conceive her second child naturally. Thanks so much for listening. And I'm so thankful that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe. And if you know someone else who is on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. Hey, Justine, excited to have you back on the podcast.
Thanks, Sarah. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So today we're digging into supplements. And so we see a lot of people, most people that come to us are taking actually heaps of supplements, a long list of them, and spending a lot of money on supplements, and maybe could be self-prescribing because there's a lot of different recommendations out there for fertility. Other ones you could have seen a practitioner and you're still continuing to take those supplements. So our take for today's episode is we're going to be going into the basic supplements. So basically we're doing functional testing, such as food sensitivity testing, hormone testing using urine, stool testing, looking at the DNA of your stool, and hair tissue mineral analysis testing, looking to see if there's any mineral imbalances. And so then we will develop a targeted action plan based on those tests and use targeted supplements. So today we're going to talk about the basic supplements that really anyone, if you're on the fertility journey, these are the ones that we recommend. And we're going to talk about ones for females and ones for men. Anything you want to say first before we get into the nitty gritty of this, Justine, with the taking the heaps of supplements?
Sure. Yeah. Just there's a ton of information out there, right, about what supplement is good for you and what supplement is not good for you. And especially if you're looking to conceive. And some of the information is conflicting, right? And if you were to pile it all together, there's easily like hundreds of things that people have said could be good for fertility. And ultimately, what we want to be able to do is to be able to boil that down to like, what are the things that are really the most important and that we think are the most sort of important foundation for preconception so that we can sort of cut through the noise basically of all those supplements that are out there on the market. Absolutely.
And so the big caveat to the supplement piece is you can't out supplement the basics. So we've talked about on this podcast, the importance of looking at diet. So starting you and your partner doing the elimination diet, determining if you have any food sensitivities. You can't out supplement your sleep. If your sleep sucks, if you've got insomnia, interrupted sleep, waking up tired and wired, exhausted. So sleep issues, you can't out supplement sleep. Movement, it's not about over exercising or under exercising. And then stress, if you're dealing with chronic stress, which we see a lot, people on the fertility journey, obviously they liken an infertility diagnosis to a cancer diagnosis. And studies have shown that 50% of people dealing with infertility, studies have found they actually have PTSD. The stress of the fertility journey itself, and then along with, the world and life, being able to get honest about those stressors. So although supplements can help, it's important to work on those basics. And that's our big caveat on this whole discussion. So make sure those are addressed as well. The supplement industry, it's a $123 billion industry. That's only in the US alone. So there's a lot, you can spend a lot of money on supplements. And, are they actually helping your fertility or harming your fertility? We see a lot of people that are taking supplements. The ones that we see potentially could be filled with dyes, fillers, like top allergens, such as gluten or soy or dairy. What did you want to say about that, Justine?
Yeah, there's a lot of junk out there. Ultimately, we find it really important that not only do we have to have the diet and the sleep and the exercise and the stress reduction in place for supplements even to really be useful, but it's really important that the supplements are good quality supplements, right? That they're actually what they say they are, that they're pure, that it doesn't have things in there that are causing more inflammation, right? Because some supplements, if they're not what they say they are, which does happen sometimes, or if it's just got other junk in there, right? It's perhaps making you worse off than you were before you took the supplement. So we absolutely don't want you spending your money on some of those things that are possibly problematic, and we want them to be therapeutic grade, right? So in a lot of cases, a lot of supplements that are out there are really low dosages, right? So vitamin C, for example, they recommend 500 milligrams in a day. Well, we know that that's just inadequate. Same thing with vitamin D and many other vitamins and minerals, that the amounts that are out there in a standard supplement that you could get from your corner pharmacy are really sort of not at a therapeutic level that's really going to make a difference and move the needle for you. So it's really important to know the brands and to trust the brands that you're buying from. And so normally we recommend that you work with a practitioner who sort of knows the ins and outs of the industry and knows what to look for when there are, to spot the fakes and to spot the things that could be included in a supplement that's not going to do your body good.
We are always looking for the best supplement available on the market. So, and we prefer a professional grade supplement. Typically, if you're not buying a professional grade supplement, if you're going to maybe Amazon, can you talk about Amazon and kind of what we're seeing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Amazon is a special beast. Basically, anyone can sell anything on Amazon. And what we've discovered is that there are a lot of fakes out there. I'm talking about supplements where you look at it, the price is very similar to the price if you go to the manufacturer's website. The label is the same. The bottle looks the same. Everything is exactly the same, except what's in that pill is not at all the same. And it's because there's a lot of imposters out there. And then there's a lot of unauthorized sellers too. And so sometimes it's not necessarily an imposter, but it's an unauthorized seller. And so I've talked to some of the supplement companies in the past, and they've sort of described it as sort of playing whack-a-mole, that nobody is authorized to sell their products on Amazon, but they constantly find fakes and people who aren't authorized to sell on Amazon. And, so they work that out and they get that seller removed from being able to sell that product. But then another one just pops up right in its place. So, and this happens a lot with Amazon products where the things posted there is not necessarily vetted. When it comes to supplements, right? Like we're talking about our bodies and putting things into our bodies that are going to, help us be in a healthy state in order to create a baby. It's really important that we're using really good high quality products. And the things out there on Amazon just simply can't be trusted.
So looking at professional grade supplements. And then in the fertility space, there's a lot of general fertility supplement recommendations. And today we're talking about the basics. And then as we do testing, and part of our Fat Fertile method is to then do the testing and then develop that customized protocol based on testing. So some of these supplements that you may be taking may not be beneficial, or maybe it could be too much. And typically we're sort of seeing if you're taking, and some of these can be good. So there's nothing against them, but are they shifting the needle? Are they necessary? Are you using them at the right point in time? So things like evening primrose, chaste tree or vitex, maca, L-carnitine, zinc, iron, bee pollen, royal jelly. Is there anything you'd like to say about some of those supplements, Justine?
Sure. So, these things have potential to be helpful, but they're not necessarily for everyone. So chaste tree or vitex is not necessarily for everyone. There are certain conditions and conditions that affect conception that is not necessarily ideal for. And other things like zinc, for example, has potential to drive down sodium. And we see when we do testing with folks that we have clients all the time that are on the low end for sodium. And so, it's really important that when you're taking supplements that they're right for you. Just because it helps somebody doesn't necessarily mean that it's right for your chemistry. And the other thing about these, I do think that they are nutritive, right? That they add something to the body in most cases. But in my opinion, they're not the first place to start, right? There are some foundational supplements. And we're going to talk about those, of course, but some foundations that really sort of give the body the primary nutrients that it needs to sort of really have this nice foundation built for health. These sort of general fertility supplements that we hear a lot about, in my opinion, just sort of aren't at the top of the list. They're not the top most important ones.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the basic supplements and that we are recommending at this stage. And again, all of this, you want to consult your practitioner that you're working with, before you make any changes. If you're taking something that's been prescribed by a practitioner, you need to then consult with that practitioner before you make any changes. Okay, so starting with the prenatal. So we are recommending a methyl folate prenatal. So make sure that your prenatal does not have folic acid. That is the synthetic form of folate. Can you talk about the importance of that, Justine?
Yeah, so not every person is able to process folic acid into folate. And so it's really important that whatever prenatal that you do take does have methyl folate in it, which is the active, usable, bioavailable form of folic acid. And that's really important because it's a vitamin that we really need. That's really important for conception and really important for pregnancy and for the growth of a baby. But most people really struggle with folic acid. And so, sort of everyone knows like, okay, folic acid is what you need when you're pregnant. But it turns out it's not actually folic acid. It's the methyl folate version that's really the most important. And so if you are taking a prenatal and you look on the back of the bottle and you spot that it's got folic acid in it, that's one very obvious clue that that's not the ideal prenatal for you, that it's relatively low quality. Because any of the good brands out there that really know a lot about using the best ingredients in order to make sure that you're actually getting as much as possible from the prenatal, they only use the methyl folate version.
Absolutely. So, and then, and sometimes people are coming to us, they've already had the testing for the MTHFR gene. I did a podcast episode with Dr. Ben Lynch. He's a world-renowned expert on MTHFR. And so he talks about in that episode about the importance of avoiding folic acid. So he goes into detail about that on that podcast episode. You can search it up, as well as another episode on MTHFR and really what that means for fertility. Can you just give a high level overview of that for people, Justine?
There's a lot of percentage of the population that have some version of the MTHFR mutation, which means that they're not able to convert folic acid to methyl folate, which is the version that the body's able to use. And so when that happens, the folic acid is really sort of useless to us. And of course, we really need that methyl folate in order to be able to conceive and to grow a baby. It's really important that the prenatal that you use has the methyl folate version instead of folic acid.
Excellent. Okay. So the next one we have, so for men, you'll be taking a multivitamin. Can you talk about what they would look for in a multi?
Yeah. So it's basically the same as a prenatal. So again, we want to make sure that it's got methyl folate versus folic acid. And in general, we want to make sure that it's got a nice, robust amount of the various things that are in a multivitamin. The same thing with the prenatal. So not every prenatal and multivitamin is equal. And so even if they are a good quality brand and they've got the methyl folate, that's sort of the first sort of test, in my opinion, if I'm looking at a prenatal or a multivitamin, is does it have the methyl folate rather than folic acid? But also, does it have a nice amount of everything that's in it? Because even among some of the really great brands that I trust, that are good therapeutic brands, not all of them have the same amounts, right? Some of them have more, for example, sodium and calcium and magnesium and potassium and all of the B vitamins and things like that. So we really want to make sure that we've got one that really has an adequate amount of everything in it.
Okay. And so the next one we have, and this is for both men and women, is CoQ10. You talk about the importance of that for fertility?
Yeah. So CoQ10 really helps to support sperm health and egg health. And so this is a common recommendation that a lot of our clients come to us already taking because their fertility doctor or whoever they worked with in the past or whatever they've researched online, sort of everyone recommends CoQ10. And so that's something that we recommend for everyone as well. Although this one's a little goofy in that in most cases, it's recommended to discontinue the CoQ10 once conception has happened. So this one of all the supplements that we recommend is sort of really more of a preconception supplement rather than support throughout the pregnancy. Whereas the rest of the supplements that we recommend on a basic level, you would normally continue throughout pregnancy as well.
And we've got 6 of these here as our basic ones. So that's number 2. So number 3 we have is magnesium. And I did a podcast episode with an expert in magnesium. And she talked about that over 85% of us are deficient in magnesium. And for years, I used to get the leg cramps, the eye twitches, the painful muscles. Now when I take my daily magnesium, lo and behold, that doesn't happen. Can you talk about the importance of magnesium for fertility for both men and women?
Yeah, so magnesium is one of those master minerals. So we have a handful of minerals that there's just a ton of them in the body, and we need a lot of it. We all really struggle to get enough magnesium. So like you said, we're like 85% of people are deficient in magnesium. So we find that constantly, and people struggle with, so, the leg cramps is one of them, but struggling with sleep is another symptom of magnesium being low. And magnesium is involved in something like 600 to 800 processes in the body. So there are all of these chemical processes that your body has to do in order to keep your body happy and alive, right? And when magnesium is deficient, all of those processes suffer because none of the processes have enough magnesium to really function at 100%. And our reproductive system is one of those situations where it has to have magnesium for all of the normal processes, all of the normal cycles to happen. And when magnesium is low, then all of those things have potential to falter.
And so the magnesium is for both you, is it for you and your partner, so for both men and women. And then the next one, number 4, is omega-3. A lot of us are exposed to in our environment a lot of omega-6s. Can you talk about the difference between omega-3s and 6s and why we want to make sure we have omega-3s in our diet?
Yeah, so omega-3s are a really important fatty acid. Again, it supports a lot of processes in the body. And we have an abundance, as you said, of omega-6s in our diet, basically in our American diets today, our standard sort of Western diet. And so most of us have more omega-6s than we do omega-3s. And the body has a pretty specific ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s that it wants to have. And so in most cases, most of us benefit from omega-3. The other thing that it does, so not only does it support sort of overall well-being, but it's really important to have enough omega-3s in order to be able to produce hormones, right? So our bodies produce hormones from fats and from B vitamins primarily. And so if we don't have enough of those things in the body, especially the omega-3s, then we struggle to make enough progesterone and to make enough estrogen and to make enough testosterone. The body has to have those in order to make them. And then the last thing with omega-3 is it's really anti-inflammatory. Mm-hmm. So if we've got inflammation in the body, from anything, really, the omega-3s really do a nice job of helping to support the body in a lot of ways, and especially to reduce inflammation.
Great. And number 5, the next one is vitamin D3 and K2, and this is for women and men. We regularly see couples in our couples coaching program with vitamin D in the teens, in the single digits, and a functional reference range is between 60 to 80. And there's a podcast episode I did with Dr. Will Cole talking about the importance of vitamin D and kind of if it's low, or, obviously you want to then supplement to improve it, but also, well, why is it low in the first place? And with the functional approach, we're always asking why. So can you talk about why it's important to do the D3 with the K2 and why that's important for fertility?
Yeah. So vitamin D3 and K2, like you said, we see them low all the time. And this is another one, just like magnesium, it's involved in so many things that when we have a deficiency, the body really struggles to function at 100% in all the different areas of the body. We combine D3 and K2 together because the K2 helps with the absorption of the D3, with the body's ability to actually use the D3 that you're taking. And also I should note, we always recommend vitamin D3 and not vitamin D2. So D2, if you're just taking something called vitamin D, by default, it's usually vitamin D2, and that's a synthetic version of the vitamin. And the body really struggles to make use of that. So it's not necessarily bad for you, but it's not necessarily good for you either. So we always recommend vitamin D3. So that's the kind that's bioavailable to the body. We always want to see it combined with vitamin K2. And these two vitamins together really help with magnesium, with calcium. And so, we all know that we need calcium, and that calcium is especially important for pregnancy. And the D3-K2 combo really helps sort of manage calcium levels in the body and really helps tell calcium where to go in the body. Calcium is supposed to be in particular places, in the bones and the teeth especially. And sometimes calcium moves. Calcium's sort of a mineral, a dumb mineral, for lack of a better way of putting it. It doesn't know where to be in the body unless it has adequate vitamin D3 and vitamin K2 to tell it where to be, that it should be in the bones and the teeth rather than in the soft tissues. And I'm sure, as lots of our listeners know, that calcium can be problematic if it ends up in other places. Sometimes that could be what's involved in kidney stones and things like that. So we always want to recommend those together, and until we're at a point where we're in that functional range of 60 to 80.
Yeah, and this is for women and men, and you definitely want to be testing as well too. If yours is low, because you may be recommended a higher dose, you want to make sure that you're regularly testing your levels. And the last one we have is a probiotic. So this is for men and women, and we're recommending spore-based probiotic. You talk about the spore-based, and this one actually does not require any refrigeration. So you can talk about that spore-based versus a regular probiotic that we're seeing that potentially is going to be needing to be refrigerated.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite aspects of the spore-based probiotic that we love. So the one that we typically recommend is called Megaspore Biotic, and it's a spore-based probiotic. The fact that it doesn't have to be refrigerated is critical for me anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, my supplements that have to stay refrigerated are the ones I forget to take. So that's really a really important aspect in my opinion, right? Because if you forget to take it, it has zero value to you. But we always recommend a spore-based probiotic these days, and it's because it actually makes it to the part of the gut where it's supposed to help reseed and fill the gut with good bacteria. And many traditional probiotics don't actually survive the passage through the stomach acid. And so that's why we recommend the Megaspore. And it's because it actually does make it to the place where it's supposed to. It does colonize. It does help to start weed out unfriendly flora that tend to build up in our gut. And so for that reason, we've seen it be significantly more effective than traditional probiotics. I've known of stories of colleagues of mine who have talked about the different things that have happened for their clients and their family members and things like that when they started taking Megaspore. But even as far as just from taking a probiotic alone, allergies to dogs and cats have gone away. So allergies completely eliminated just from adding in this probiotic. And it's because this probiotic is so effective and so helpful to the gut sort of starting to repair itself, right? Because when it's filled with good bacteria, those good bacteria produce really good things for us. They help us digest our food. They produce byproducts that are really nutritive to the gut, as opposed to the unfriendly flora that produce byproducts that are harmful to the gut and that actually do damage to the gut. And they're little thieves. They digest our food and they eat our food, and we don't get those nutrients, and then they do damage at the same time. And so the Megaspore is really great, or any spore-based probiotic is really great at actually colonizing in the area it's supposed to of the gut and really sort of crowding out those unfriendly flora so they can't live there anymore.
And can you talk about the importance when we're doing a protocol, and if we find if there's a parasite or a bacterial infection, we're working on reducing infections, and many times other probiotics can be killed by or can be eradicated by some of the other supplements we're using to eliminate infections, and how and why Megaspore that doesn't happen to be the case for this product.
Yeah, so I think it has to do with the same thing as the reason why the stomach acid doesn't kill them in the journey through the stomach and down into the gut. And it's because they're sort of encapsulated in their spore form, and the spore, it's a protective coating, like an exoskeleton almost. And so it's this protective coating, and that's what allows them to make it to the right area. And so it's just a hardier probiotic than traditional probiotics are.
I did an interview with Kieran Christian from Microbiome Labs, and so definitely check out that episode. And we talk all about probiotics and really his process of how he developed this. And so it's a really interesting episode, so you can check that out. So in recap, we're suggesting that for men and women, so for women, you would take a prenatal, looking for a methyl folate version. For men, you're looking for a multivitamin. For women and men, CoQ10, women and men, magnesium, women and men, omega-3, women and men, a vitamin D3, K2, and for women and men, a probiotic. And so really, how long should we be taking these basic supplements? What's your take?
Yeah, so that's really individual. These basic supplements that we're recommending, these sort of core 6 products, for the most part, are useful for people, perhaps indefinitely. Right. So probiotics is something like we always need our gut to have good friendly flora. The omega-3s are always going to be important, lifelong. Magnesium, it takes quite a long time for people to, if they're magnesium deficient, to really bring their magnesium level up to an adequate level, sometimes a couple of years. But then the multivitamin and the CoQ10 and the vitamin D3, K2, for some of these things, we find them important in the beginning, but once we hit a normal level, right? So once for D3, for example, you're in that functional range of 60 to 80, you don't necessarily need to supplement with D3 anymore, right? So it's really important that we retest, that we find out what our levels actually are. And we have seen people who have been on D3, right? So someone recommended D3 to them and they've been taking it for 3 or 4 years at a high dosage, 5,000 IUs a day or 10,000 IUs a day. And sometimes their D3 sort of is off the charts on the other end, right? Mm-hmm. And that can be just as problematic as being too low. And so we really don't want to overshoot our target. And so some of these things we could take indefinitely. And when it comes to probiotics and omega-3s, my personal feeling is that everyone would benefit from those throughout their entire lifetime. But when it comes to D3, we really don't want to overshoot our target. It's a fat soluble vitamin, which means our body isn't able to just flush out any excess that it doesn't need. And so there is such a thing as vitamin D toxicity, right? You actually can get too much. So I really strongly feel that that a handful of these supplements, for most people, most of us are deficient, and it's fine to start to take it for a little while. But at some point, you've got to do testing in order to make sure that it's still advisable for you, so that you don't overshoot your target.
Absolutely. And as we say, so these are the basic supplements that we'd recommend for couples in our couples coaching program. So wanted to share this information with you. And then we're going to be digging deeper, doing the functional testing, and then developing that customized protocol. And it's for a targeted amount of time. So we've then developed a protocol with supplements to address any kind of imbalances or infections, anything that we're seeing there. Anything you wanted to say about that approach?
Yeah, just the general rule of thumb is, anytime anyone's recommended a supplement to you, or you've read about a supplement that might be beneficial, most of these supplements are not forever. Right. So we talked about a probiotic maybe being helpful forever, and an omega-3 maybe being helpful forever. But there are very few other things that are good for everyone forever. Even a multivitamin. A multivitamin still it's not something I recommend to everyone, because in some cases it's got, it's got everything in it. Right. So it's like a one size fits all, except one size doesn't fit all. Right. We all have our own unique chemistry. And so it's really important to retest to make sure that you actually need the things that you've been taking, and that it's right for you. Right. So we've got to make sure that it's cultivated to exactly what's going on for you. What kind of symptoms are you having? What are your particular challenges? And what do your test results tell us? And that's what really drives the supplements that are right for you. And so just because someone's recommended something to you, or you read about something, doesn't mean that we should take it forever just because our pregnancy hasn't happened yet. Right. And so, for example, if you've been taking vitamin D at a high level for a number of years, I strongly encourage you to do some testing before continuing to take it. And likewise with just about anything else, right? That it's, if you've done it for a long time, there's a possibility that there's too much in your system and it's not actually helping anymore.
Right. And if you're taking heaps of supplements to be able to, these are the basic ones that we're looking at, be able to, if you're working with a practitioner, to be able to speak with your practitioner, because many of those supplements may not be beneficial, but you need to work with a practitioner on that. Anything you'd like to say about that people taking a lot of supplements as a final thought?
Yeah. So it's just back to this idea that we can't out supplement any bad diet or lifestyle behaviors, right? So we firmly believe that there are sort of these 5 legs of the table, right? Diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplements. Supplements is 20, if we're giving them equal weight, supplements is 20%. It's critically important that we don't put all of our eggs in the supplement basket, right? We have to be making sure that we're eating good quality, nutrient dense foods, and we're avoiding things that cause inflammation. And we have to make sure that we're going to bed on time and that we're sleeping the right hours as much as possible. And we have to make sure that we're getting movement, and we have to make sure that we're reducing stress. And then supplements is really just sort of just one other part. And so we don't want to go sort of hog wild with supplements, because it's just it's just one of the legs of the table. There can also just be sort of too many things going on at once, especially if say you've read an article and they recommended 4 or 5 things and you start them all at once, like that has potential to cause sort of a storm in your body, right? A whole lot going on at once. And so when we recommend supplements, even these basic supplements that we know are just really sort of foundational nutrients for people, we still recommend a really slow go, right? We start things one at a time. We start with the smallest dose, and we ramp up very slowly in a very methodical way to make sure that we don't overwhelm the body with too many new things all at once.
Absolutely. Because if you take all 6 of these all at once and you start having, gas or pain or headaches, we won't really know what it is. So each one you would then, so for instance, can you just kind of go through the process of that, Justine? So if we were to take all 6 of these and we start off with the prenatal, how would that kind of work? Just an overall.
Sure. So usually what we recommend is with the prenatal that you start with 1 capsule on the first day. So a lot of prenatals, they're about 4 capsules a day usually. And so on the first day, you would take 1 capsule with breakfast. And on the second day, you would take 1 capsule with breakfast and 1 capsule with dinner. And on the third day, we would add 1 more capsule. So you'd do 2 at breakfast and 1 at dinner. And on the 4th day, it would be 2 at breakfast and 2 at dinner. And now we're at the full dosage. And not until that's happened, so now you're at the full dosage of your prenatal. And on day 5, after the 4 days of ramping up the prenatal, now you can begin the next supplement. So now you can begin your omega-3. And again, if the kind that you're taking is a couple of gel caps, so we take 1 with breakfast on the first day. And then on the second day, we add in one at dinner. And so we continue to do this in this very methodical way so that, again, like you said, if at any point there's bloating or headaches or any kind of reaction, we have the ability to know, where exactly in the chain of events did you start to have some unwanted symptom. And then we have options, right? So we can either discontinue that supplement or we can step it back down to a level where you weren't having discomfort. And in a lot of cases, in the example of an omega-3, it's pretty rare that anyone has any kind of discomfort from starting an omega-3, but anything is possible. And it's because once the body has the nutrients that it needs, that it's been wanting, it starts to do things it wasn't doing before, right? So before it was sort of in this like low power mode, right? It was sort of trying to conserve energy because it didn't have all the resources to do what it needed to. And now all of a sudden it's going, oh, wow, we have all of these resources now. And it starts to power back up and it starts to do things it wasn't necessarily doing before or wasn't doing at the same level before. And one of those things is starting to move toxins out of the body. And so even if we're taking something that isn't related to detoxification at all, right, it's just about supporting the body with basic nutrients, sometimes the body starts to do some detox work all on its own without you even trying. And when that happens, sometimes the body starts to detox faster than it really wants to. And so even something as really simple and nutritive as omega-3 has potential to do that for you. And that's why we take it slow. We always recommend it slow for everyone so that, if you do start to detox at some point, we know what supplement you were just rolling in that started that to happen. And we can make adjustments based on the information that we have in order, because we've identified which one was the one that sort of pushed you over the edge. And essentially we just back that one out for a couple of days and we try again later. And usually that seems to work almost all the time.
Great. Yeah. So gone are the days of getting everything in and then just chugging them all down and wondering, why something is not working or why we're feeling so poorly. So really taking that low and slow approach that we do with all of the supplements that we would recommend throughout the protocol. Yeah. So we have an online supplement store. We use FullScript and we'll have a link in the show notes for here. So we'll actually have these 6 products and the brands that we currently like. So you can go to the link in the show notes, check out those supplement recommendations for those 6 supplements that we talked about. Anything you wanted to share there, Justine?
I guess just that the FullScript makes it super easy. It's at a discount, so it's less expensive than you would find these supplements at any of your local health food stores like a Whole Foods or anything like that. And we've really gone through the trouble of hand selecting really the best products, the ones that we know tend to be the most effective, and they're from brands that we trust, right? Where they're using the methyl folate and all of their oils are treated in the right way. And basically they've taken all of the precautions to make sure that these are the absolute best products out there.
Yep. So we're offering you a discount. So definitely go to the show notes and you can check out the supplements that we are currently recommending. So any final thoughts on supplements, Justine?
Well, just that I'm a fan, but they're not the whole picture. We've got to do the diet and the exercise and the stress reduction and all that stuff too.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Sarah.
Hey there. I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery call is for action takers. And really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, FabFertile.com and click on book a free call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's FabFertile, FabFertile.com and click on book a free call. You may be taking supplements that instead of optimizing your fertility, may be harming it. That's why we recommend professional grade supplements without harmful dyes, fillers, or top allergens. Simply go to Fab Fertile Store, that's FabFertileStore.com to receive a 15% discount on our basic supplement recommendations for preconception health. That's FabFertileStore.com. The Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, including show notes and links, provides information with respect to healthy living, nutrition, lab testing, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without representation or warranties of any kind. please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.